records for not just flooding, but also the number of tornadoes. We had to deal with that at the same time. Thunderstorms and even some minor flash flooding are fairly common in May in Oklahoma. But this was unprecedented in that we were in a very stubborn weather pattern where storm system after storm system just kept pounding the same area, dumping heavy amounts of rainfall, and it just kept falling. We kept waiting for a storm system to come in from the west to help push this very stubborn and persistent pattern out. But it didn't happen. Day after day, we were forecasting more rainfall. And when the U.S. Corps of Army Engineers had to release water, it was almost like, salt on the wound, because we were already flooding. And I know people in Sand Springs were just heartbroken.
Washing machine area. Everything that my parents have worked so hard for is just gone. My childhood memories, the things that I've seen my whole life is gone.
As I stand here near River Oaks and Town and Country communities, I'm reminded of just how very different things looked around here just a year ago. I couldn't even be standing where I'm standing, or I would be swimming in the midst of the flood. May of last year was a terrible time that truly devastated so many people in our community. And the year since then has been a constant recovery. I'm reminded of how difficult those times were, but I'm also reminded at how strong, how resilient, and how unified our people can be. Let's take some time to remember the flood, the people, and continue to serve those affected as we as Oklahomans come together and wrap each other in our arms.
Well, churches in Sand Springs are working day in and day out to help flood victims.
They're cleaning debris from homes, they're providing food, water, cleaning supplies, and they say they won't stop until the need is met.
The last 2 weeks, this building at Sand Springs Church of Christ has been filled with stories of loss. Hundreds of families have filled these hallways, waiting to pick up basic necessities like food, water, clothes, and cleaning supplies.
They are part of a network of churches partnering with disaster relief organizations from all over the country to make sure that flood victims and their families have everything they need to rebuild. I'm at Angus Church right now, where volunteers have been serving 3 hot meals a day to flood victims and their families for almost 3 weeks now.
Hi, I'm Chief Meteorologist Travis Meyer. Just a year ago was a very, very bad time. In fact, it almost reminded me of 1986 when I left my house because of flooding along the Arkansas River. It was a personal experience for me just because of what is required for a lot of people to have to pretty much just make it through something so difficult. You don't know if you're going to have a home, if the dikes break. You don't know what's going to happen next. You have family, you're trying to move things. Everything that's precious to you could be gone in a matter of minutes. But what we saw was something that I thought was very, very amazing in terms of Oklahoma's spirit, because there were so many folks, and especially in the sense of just the thought process of what I went through in 1986 and knowing what it took. It took pretty much a village just to help individual people to get out of harm's way and to make it a little bit better.
You know, I'll never forget the day when my good friend Mike LaHue from Mobile Missions Network came to my office door right over here, and he said, Jared, we've got some of our friends from one of our communities that we partner with that due to the floodwaters rising, they don't have anywhere to go. He said, Jared, do you think Angus Church would be willing to open their doors to give them a place to stay? And I was like, man, my heart broke. And I was just thinking, I remember sitting at my desk thinking, man, how could we not? So we opened our church doors, and we were able to house multiple families, and our church, partnering with many local businesses and other churches, were able to provide 3 hot meals for the families during that time. And you know, that was something that I loved seeing. Like, during such a horrific tragedy, to see churches and businesses and just the families and the community of Sand Springs coming together. They were so united. You could sense such a love for one another. And that's one of the things I think I will never forget.
They felt loved and cared from our team, Mobile Missions and Angus Church, that above all, they sensed the power and the love of Jesus, and they experienced the depth and the height and the width of how much Jesus loves them, because that was our whole goal. And so I think back to all that, and I think God accomplished His goal. Even though I hate the fact that all of this was lost, there was so much gained afterwards. The friendships that were formed, the family that was formed, the relationships that continue to happen today, knowing that any of those people can call us at any point during the day, and we'll say, hey, what do you need? Or how can we pray? Or how can we help?
It was a terrible situation. And then when you started hearing the stories of the people who had lost their homes and not even able to go back to their homes, they had lost their jobs, lost their vehicles. And again, that water just stood there because this area was cordoned off. It was dangerous. And again, the chemicals that were in the water. And it was just a tragic situation that breaks your heart to forecast, breaks your heart to see in person.
Really devastating, you know, because after it was all said and done, I had like 18 inches of water inside my house. And my deck was like 4 foot up off the ground. And then above that was another 18 inches. The house was just completely totaled. Found another place right next door to the church of Angus. Started going there and was a member of the church now. And I just want to thank the churches and everybody that was involved to help me out personally, and all the other people that helped. It was a blessing, you know, to be able to have a church, to be able to take us in. If it wasn't for the helpers and Mike LaHue and Pastor Jordan, Pastor Jared, and all of them, Tim, there was lots of people I could keep naming, you know, but it was just, here, we'll help. Well, let's do this, you know. And they've started bringing in trailers and put my stuff in storage. I got to stay there at the church. They fed us all every day. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart.
Well, it's been very stressful. We're still recovering. I just recently ordered storm doors for the home. I still need to have my home painted. We bought down here 27 years ago. We never had water before in our home. And you can't just walk off. Yeah. You can't just walk off and say, I'm done. Well, where are you going to go?
Last year when we started watching for the flood, I remember getting the text from Pastor Mike saying, hey, we're going to evacuate. I was devastated. I was heartbroken, unsure of what was going to happen. I still prayed that maybe the floodwaters wouldn't reach, or maybe it wouldn't get high enough. Right here is where we did our outside ministry. This is where we had our water wars. This is where we did our fall carnival every year. You see the water level in some places, it's above my head. I know in our community center, it was knee-deep inside. And so we ended up losing our community center. It's really hard to see it like this. It's really hard to see it empty. That there's no life out here now. We miss them so much. We miss our time out here. But I also know that there are many of those families that if they had the opportunity, they would come right back because of what they had out here, what they had with each other.
Probably the best way I could describe it would be like a roller coaster ride. I mean, when it initially happened and we realized that this was happening for sure, then, you know, all these emotions come flooding in, and you know, you're sad, you don't know what to expect, you don't know what's going to happen next. Then you go into cleanup mode and it's like your adrenaline kicks in. There were nights when everybody went home and we're sitting in here on a piece of plywood across the rafters on buckets because there's nowhere else to sit, and you just kind of break down. You know, we were blessed with a lot of our materials, so when we got done and didn't use it all, we were able to share that with our neighbors. Everybody pulled together in one unified effort. Neighbors helping neighbors, people getting to know people they didn't necessarily know, and just see it all come together. It's so easy to watch the news and see these things that happen, and then, you know, a few weeks later, you're just about your normal life. But I think it's good as a community for us to remember that these people are still dealing with this stuff.
For those around Sand Springs, especially for those that were sitting there, I had several friends that were just on the inside of some of those dikes. They were very scary moments, but I also saw a lot of great people come forward. I saw the spirit of Oklahoma come forward. I saw a lot of people go into even harm's way. Even just standing on some of those levees was something else because of all that water rushing by, millions of gallons of water per second going by. Again, as we kind of look back at that, I just want you to know that I'm very impressed by what we saw, and it's the Oklahoma spirit. I know people say that a lot, but it is what it is. And it's so nice to live in a part of the country that has such a big heart, so many people who care, so many people who come to help, and to help rescue, or just to help, period. It makes such a huge difference in people's lives, and that is just a sign of what we have.
And so I think back to one particular time, and when there was still water in the community. This was probably 7 to 10 days into the flood, and there was a portion of our community that still had not been able to get back into their homes, and so we're like, man, what do we do? So I remember Jorge and Billy, some other guys just got together and said, hey, we just need to pump this water out. And so we went and rented all these pumps, and it was just one of those kind of a glorious moment, although it was a pretty nasty moment. And I just remember being alongside those guys, and I heard their hearts, and I heard, you know, their hurts and things like that. And it was just this common bond through that work. And it took 24 to 48 hours, I think, to pump all that water out. But that was just a great picture of resolve of the people who lived at River Oaks. And I think back to that time a lot, and how much that time meant a lot to me. Because I didn't just see them anymore as people who lived in our community, but they became friends, they became family. So what a powerful moment that was when we just came together to pump that water out. And then to see people from Angus and Church Inside Out and other churches just come together and get stuff outside, out of the homes, was a significant moment.
Through all that, here is what we know. Times have been difficult. We've been through a lot as a community, as a state. But as Oklahomans, we come together. You are strong, you are courageous, you're resilient, and you truly love one another. How beautiful it has been to be a part of a community that truly serves and loves one another. I'm so thankful for the faith community, for Sand Springs and Manford, Sapulpa, for Tulsa, for all these areas that have really shown what it looks like to truly love your neighbor. And let me tell you, if you are one of those people that was hit by this flood and are still recovering, know that we are still here for you, and we're still here with you. We love you. We haven't given up. We know that we can't control what happens, as tough times have come in the past. They're happening around us right now, and they'll come again. But we do know that we will continue to be there for one another.